Naomi Winters had survived a knife attack in a hospital parking lot, a building collapse during her residency, and 14 years of emergency room shifts in Detroit. She'd seen things that would make a horror writer quit the profession. None of that prepared her for being dragged into an alien gladiatorial arena at 9 in the morning. "There's been a mistake," she said for the 5th time, as two very polite but very insistent station security officers escorted her through the corridors of Galactic Research Station Kepler 19. "I'm medical staff. I don't do demonstrations." "The Kre'vashi delegation specifically requested human combat personnel," the taller officer said. "I'm a nurse." "You're human. That's the requirement." "That's not how job qualifications work." They'd reached the arena entrance. Massive doors that looked like they'd been designed to contain something large and violent, which, Naomi reflected as they opened, was probably accurate. The arena was packed. Hundreds of aliens in the observation tiers, delegates from a dozen species, all here to witness the Kre'vashi diplomatic summit. And in the center of the sand-covered floor, a group of 8-foot-tall predators that looked like someone had crossed a wolf with a bear, and then given the result military training and anger management issues. The Kre'vashi. Naomi had read the briefing files. Apex predator species from a death world where everything was trying to kill everything else. Honor-based warrior culture. Evaluated potential allies through ritual combat, because apparently, let's just have lunch and talk, was too boring. One of them stepped forward. Male, judging by the deeper chest and broader shoulders, covered in gray-black fur with white markings across his face. Shartok, the delegation leader. War leader of the Northern Territories. Approximately as diplomatic as a chainsaw. "The human warrior arrives," he announced in accented but clear standard. His voice carried across the arena like a physical force. "I'm not a warrior," Naomi said. "I'm a nurse. There's been a... You will demonstrate human combat capabilities." Not a question. Not a request. Naomi looked at the security officers who were already backing away. Looked at the exits, which had sealed. Looked at Shartok, who was holding what appeared to be blunted training weapons, a short staff, and a padded shield. "This is a terrible idea," she said. "It is tradition. Your tradition is going to get someone hurt. That is the purpose." Shartok's teeth showed him what might have been a smile. "Relax, human. The weapons are designed for training. You will not die." "That's not as reassuring as you think it is." He tossed her the weapons anyway. Naomi caught them on instinct. The staff was lighter than it looked, the shield awkward and unfamiliar. She'd taken exactly one self-defense course in college 15 years ago. She remembered approximately nothing useful. This was going to be humiliating. On the sidelines, she noticed two smaller Kre'vashi watching with bright, curious eyes. Cubs, maybe 6 months old by human equivalent, though already the size of large dogs. One had russet fur with black markings. The other was lighter, almost silver. Rika and Shira, according to the briefing. Shartok's children. A female Kre'vashi stood behind them, one massive paw on each cub's shoulder. Vela, the mate. She was watching Naomi with an expression that might have been concern, or might have been anticipation. Hard to tell with a different species. "This is educational," Shartok explained, moving into a ready stance. "The young must learn combat from observation." "You're teaching your kids violence by beating up medical personnel?" "We are teaching them that strength must be tested." He moved, fast. Not an attack, just a demonstration. "Defend yourself, human." Naomi raised the shield. "Can we maybe just talk about..." He struck. Not hard, not really. But fast enough that Naomi barely got the shield up in time. The impact rattled up her arm. She stumbled back, off balance, trying to remember literally anything from that self-defense course. Shartok circled. "You are slow." "I'm a nurse." "Block." She blocked. Barely. The shield took another hit that made her teeth rattle. Around them, the other Kre'vashi warriors had joined in, sparring with each other, demonstrating techniques, turning the whole thing into some kind of elaborate combat ballet. Naomi was just trying not to get knocked on her ass. She lasted approximately 90 seconds before Shartok swept her legs and she went down hard. "Again," he said. Naomi stood. Got hit. Went down. Again. This was, she reflected, definitely not in her job description. She was on her 5th humiliating attempt at defense when the cubs decided to get involved. Later, Naomi would learn that Kre'vashi young were curious, fearless, and had absolutely no sense of self-preservation. In the moment, she just saw 2 small blurs of fur bolt past their mother's restraining paws and charge into the arena. They thought it was a game. Of course they did. Running, pouncing, wrestling with each other across the sand while warriors scrambled to avoid stepping on them. "Rika! Shira!" Vela's voice cracked with panic. "Return at once!" The cubs ignored her. They were playing, tumbling over each other, completely oblivious to the fact that they'd just run into an active combat zone. The warriors froze. Couldn't move without risking the cubs. Couldn't shoot. Several had bows for the ranged portion of training, all lowered now. One warrior, younger and clearly inexperienced, panicked. His bow wasn't lowered. His fingers slipped. The arrow released. Naomi saw the trajectory, saw Shira, the silver cub, rolling directly into its path. Saw the angle, the speed, the inevitable intersection of projectile and child. She didn't think. 14 years of emergency medicine had trained one response into her hindbrain. When someone's in danger, you move. She moved. Dove across the sand, arms outstretched. The arrow hit her left shoulder and went straight through. She felt the punch of impact, the weird cold-hot sensation of tissue tearing, the immediate screaming protest of her nervous system. Her hands closed around Shira mid-fall. Naomi twisted, rolled, tucked the cub against her chest, and kept rolling to shield her with her body. The second arrow hit her back. The third hit her thigh. Both went through. Both hurt like nothing she'd experienced since the building collapse. Both were secondary to the immediate priority. Was the cub okay? Shira was making distressed noises, wriggling in Naomi's grip. But no blood, no injuries. Just scared. "You okay, kiddo?" Naomi's voice came out steadier than she felt. "Yeah? Good." She looked up. Every single Kre'vashi in the arena had frozen. Absolute silence. Not even breathing sounds. Just hundreds of predator eyes locked on the human bleeding on the sand. Naomi still had Shira tucked against her chest, 3 arrows protruding from her body at angles that looked, she knew from professional experience, really bad. She could feel blood soaking into her uniform, could feel her shoulder going numb. "Someone want to help me up?" she asked. Nobody moved. Rika had stopped playing, was staring at her with wide, terrified eyes. Vela was frozen mid-step, one paw outstretched, mouth open in a soundless expression of shock. Shartok approached slowly, very slowly. Like Naomi was something dangerous. His weapons were lowered. His ears were flat against his skull. He stopped 3 feet away and just stared. "You." His voice was barely a whisper. "You still live?" Naomi looked down at the arrows, back up at him. "I've had worse. This is nothing compared to Friday night shifts in Detroit." Around the arena, in perfect synchronization, every Kre'vashi warrior dropped to one knee. Heads bowed, weapons placed on the ground. Absolute silence, except for Shira's frightened whimpering. Naomi blinked. "Why is everyone kneeling?" Nobody answered. "Seriously, what's happening?" Shartok's voice cracked. "You took the death arrows from my daughter. They were going to hit her. You—" He seemed unable to form complete sentences. "3 strikes. Through the body. You still speak. You still move. Yeah, they hurt, obviously. Can someone get these arrows out? They're really starting to sting." "Sting," Shartok repeated, like the word didn't make sense. "Also, I'm bleeding quite a bit. If someone could grab Bernard from medical, he's my boss, human, grumpy, probably asleep in his office, that would be great." Shira made another distressed sound. Naomi looked down at her, forced a smile despite the pain that was rapidly transitioning from sting to, "Oh God, everything is on fire." "You're okay," she told the cub. "See? I'm fine. Everyone's fine." She was absolutely not fine. But the kid didn't need to know that. Shartok made a gesture. Warriors scrambled to obey, moving with terrified precision. Medical personnel appeared from somewhere. Bernard, bless him, took one look at Naomi and went pale. "What the hell did you do?" he demanded, already pulling supplies from his kit. "My job," Naomi said. "Kind of. Your job is triage, not becoming a pincushion. Kid was in danger. I moved, that's it." Bernard was checking the arrows, muttering medical terminology under his breath. "These need to come out in surgery. Now, can you walk?" "Probably not." "Can you at least let go of the cub?" Naomi looked down. Shira had stopped whimpering but was now clinging to Naomi's uniform with tiny claws, pressed against her chest like she was trying to burrow into safety. "I don't think she wants to let go." "Naomi, it's fine. Just work around her." Bernard looked like he wanted to argue, looked at the arena full of kneeling warriors, looked back at Naomi with 3 arrows through her body, still conscious, still holding an alien child. "Hazard pay," he muttered. "I'm putting you down for so much hazard pay." "Appreciated." They lifted her onto a stretcher. Shira still wouldn't let go. Rika crept closer, making worried chirping sounds. Vela approached, moving like she was in a dream. "Human, Naomi Winters." "Yeah? You saved my daughter's life. It's what anyone would do." "No." Vela's voice was fierce. "It is not." The stretcher started moving. Naomi caught one last glimpse of the arena. All those warriors, still kneeling, still silent, watching her like she'd done something impossible. All she'd done was her job. Sort of. The pain was getting worse. Bernard was talking to her, keeping her conscious, but his voice sounded distant. The last thing she saw before the medical bay doors closed was Shartok, still kneeling, staring after her with an expression she couldn't read. Later, she'd learn what that expression meant. Later, she'd understand what she'd accidentally done. For now, she just let the pain medication kick in and hoped someone was going to fill out the incident report. Because there was absolutely no way she was doing paperwork with 3 holes in her body. "Hold still." "I am holding still. You're trying to sit up." "Because I have work to do." Bernard pressed Naomi back down onto the medical bed, with the kind of gentle firmness that suggested he was approximately 3 seconds from sedating her. "You have 3 arrow wounds. You're staying in bed." "They're through and throughs," Naomi argued, wincing as he adjusted the bandaging on her shoulder. "Just patch me up. I'll be fine. You lost nearly a liter of blood. I've lost worse on a Tuesday. That's not the reassurance you think it is." Bernard sealed the final bandage and stepped back, eyeing his handiwork with professional dissatisfaction. "You're on bed rest for at least 48 hours. And before you argue, are the cubs okay?" Bernard blinked. "What?" "The cubs, Rika and Shira. Are they hurt? Traumatized?" Naomi tried to sit up again. Bernard pushed her back down. "Bernard, I need to know if they're fine, physically unharmed, currently being kept under observation by their parents. They saw the whole thing. That kind of trauma can cause—" "You're lecturing me about childhood trauma while you have holes in your body. I'm a professional. I can multitask." Bernard stared at her. "You're insane." "I'm efficient." The medical bay doors opened. Naomi expected station security. Maybe Ambassador Thren coming to deliver a lecture about interfering with diplomatic demonstrations. What she got was an 8-foot-tall Kre'vashi elder with silver-white fur, ceremonial markings across his face, and an expression of profound reverence. Mothtar, spiritual leader of the delegation. Behind him, the entire Kre'vashi diplomatic party filed in, 20 warriors, all moving in perfect silence, all staring at Naomi like she'd sprouted wings. "Oh no," Naomi said. Mothtar approached slowly, each step deliberate. He stopped at the foot of her bed and lowered his head. "Martyr," he said. "You honor us with your survival." "I'm not a martyr. I'm a nurse. There's been a misunderstanding. You took the death arrows for cubs not of your blood." "They're arrows. They're pointy, I noticed. 3 strikes." Mothtar's voice carried the weight of ritual. 3 wounds that would fell our mightiest warriors. Yet you live. You speak. You demand to return to duty. Your mightiest warriors need better health insurance. The entire delegation made a sound, somewhere between a gasp and a growl of shock. Bernard muttered, "Please stop antagonizing the heavily armed aliens." "I'm not antagonizing, I'm just—" "By ancient law," Mothtar continued, "one who sheds blood for another's young receives the highest honor. The blood right, the blessing of the war gods themselves." Naomi looked at Bernard. "Tell them I'm not blessed. You survived 3 arrow wounds, and your first question was about the cub's emotional well-being. That's basic triage." "That's abnormal," Bernard said flatly. The doors opened again. This time, a flanari, insectoid, multiple limbs, compound eyes gleaming with scientific fervor, scuttled in carrying enough scanning equipment to outfit a small research vessel. Quillix, station xenobiologist. Naomi knew them from the monthly interdepartmental meetings where Quillix presented increasingly unhinged theories about various species' biology. "Fascinating," Quillix chittered, already waving scanners over Naomi. "Absolutely fascinating. Human pain tolerance levels are unprecedented. Can everyone please stop scanning me? Your endorphin production is off the charts. Cortisol barely elevated. You should be in shock, but your vitals are—" Quillix's antennae quivered with excitement. "Completely stable." "It's called adrenaline," Naomi said. "And spite. Mostly spite. Spite is not a recognized biological mechanism. You haven't worked emergency. All medicine." Quillix was already typing frantically on a datapad. "I'm publishing a paper. Human Regenerative Immortality and Divine Wound Resistance. A study in— I'm not immortal. You took 3 arrows and you're arguing about paperwork. That's not immortality, that's stubbornness." Bernard handed her a sandwich. "Eat. You need to rebuild blood volume." Naomi took it gratefully. Quillix immediately scanned the sandwich. "Are you scanning my food?" "I'm documenting your recovery nutrient intake." "It's turkey and cheese." Mothtar was still standing at the foot of her bed, watching this exchange with what might have been awe. The martyr sustains herself on simple provisions. Truly, the war gods provide. "It's from the cafeteria," Naomi said around a mouthful of sandwich. "Station level 3. They're open until 10. A commotion at the door. Bernard moved to intercept, but 2 small shapes darted past his legs, Rika and Shira, moving with the kind of determined speed that suggested they'd evaded their parents. They scrambled up onto Naomi's bed, claws catching on the sheets, small bodies wiggling with desperate affection. "Whoa! Hey! Careful!" Naomi winced as Shira stepped directly on her bandaged thigh. "Easy there." The cubs didn't care. They curled up on either side of her, pressing against her ribs, purring with the resonance of small motors. "You two are gonna get me in more trouble, aren't you?" Naomi said. The purring intensified. Bernard sighed. "I'll note in your chart that you have unauthorized visitors. They're children. They're scared. Let them stay. You're supposed to be resting." "I am resting. With cubs." Vela appeared in the doorway. She froze when she saw her children curled up next to the human, saw Naomi's hand resting gently on Shira's back despite the obvious pain it caused. She approached slowly, each step careful. "Human. Naomi." "They're okay," Naomi said quickly. "They're not hurting me. Well, they're kind of hurting me, but it's fine." "You let them near you." Vela's voice was thick with emotion. "After what happened, you could have refused. They're kids. They need comfort. You are wounded because of them. I'm wounded because of an accident. Not their fault." Vela stopped at the bedside, looked at her children, at Naomi, at the bandages and the monitors and the human who should be furious, but was just gentle. "By ancient law," she said quietly, "you have claimed the blood right." Naomi blinked. "The what now?" "You bled for my children. They are now yours as much as mine. I have a studio apartment. I can't even have a cat. The law does not account for living space. That seems like a significant oversight in your legal system." The doors opened one final time. Shartok entered, and the entire room, already crowded, somehow felt smaller. His presence filled spaces that shouldn't exist. He looked at his mate, at his children, at the human holding them both. The cubs have chosen, he said. The martyr has accepted. I didn't accept anything. You hold them. They purr. This is acceptance. Naomi looked desperately at Bernard. Help. You're on your own with this one. I want hazard pay, Naomi said. So much hazard pay. I'll submit the forms. Mothtar stepped forward. We must perform the rite of blood bonding. It is tradition. No more traditions, Naomi protested. Your last tradition got me shot. This one involves ceremonial scarring. Absolutely not. Shartok's mouth twitched in what might have been amusement. The martyr refuses the scars. The martyr has enough scars, thank you. Rika chose that moment to sneeze directly on Naomi's sandwich. She stared at it, sighed, handed it to Bernard. Can I at least get a new sandwich? I'll see what I can do. And maybe some painkillers? Already in your IV. Can you increase them? No. Worth a try. Outside the medical bay, Naomi could hear more voices gathering. Word had spread. The human who took arrows for cubs not her own. The martyr. The blessed. She was going to have so much paperwork to fill out, assuming she survived whatever rite of blood bonding these people had planned. Shira yawned, showing all her tiny fangs, and settled more firmly against Naomi's side. This is fine, Naomi told the ceiling. Everything is fine. It absolutely was not fine. But the cubs were purring, Bernard would handle the bureaucracy, and the painkillers were starting to kick in. She'd figure out the rest later. Probably. 3 days later, Naomi was trying to inventory medical supplies, while 2 apex predator cubs helped by knocking things off shelves. Rika, that's a scalpel. Put it down. The cub looked at her with enormous innocent eyes and absolutely did not put it down. I'm counting to 3. Shira knocked over an entire box of bandages. This is my life now, Naomi told the ceiling. Behind her, 4 Kre'vashi warriors stood at attention. They'd been following her everywhere for 3 days. For protection, Mothtar had explained. The martyr must be kept safe. I'm doing inventory, Naomi had protested. Dangerous work. You might strain your wounds. It's counting. They followed her anyway. Now she had a permanent escort, 2 cubs who decided she was their favorite climbing structure, and a growing reputation that made station personnel treat her like she might spontaneously combust into holy fire. Her shoulder still ached. Her back twinged when she bent wrong. Her thigh protested every staircase. She was working through it because sitting still made her want to scream. Inventory complete? Bernard asked, poking his head into the supply room. Would be, if I didn't have supervisors. Naomi gestured at the cubs who were now wrestling with a box of gauze. You could have said no to babysitting. They followed me. I didn't invite them. You let them in. They're children. What was I supposed to do? Lock them out? Bernard sighed in a way that suggested he'd given up on understanding her decision-making process. You have visitors. Again. Tell them I'm busy. It's a Kre'vashi military commander. She seems insistent. Naomi closed her eyes. Of course she is. Commander Thelvas was built like a tank and had the personality of one. She stood in Bernard's office. They'd stopped meeting in Naomi's workspace after the cubs destroyed 2 weeks of paperwork, surrounded by tactical displays showing medical footage. Naomi's medical footage. This is a privacy violation, Naomi said. This is research, Thelvas countered. She gestured at the screens. Your pain tolerance makes you perfect warrior candidates. I'm a nurse. You took 3 arrows. Your vital signs barely spiked. Thelvas zoomed in on a graph that Naomi really didn't want to see. Your species has unprecedented endurance. That's called shock, and stubbornness, and knowing I had health insurance. Teach us this shock technique. Naomi stared at her. You can't teach shock. It's a physiological response to trauma. Then we will study it. Thelvas pulled up more data. Human pain management could revolutionize Kre'vashi military training. Or you could just not get shot? Where is the honor in that? In not having holes in your body. Thelvas looked genuinely puzzled. You are warrior culture, yes? You take pride in endurance? We're a try-not-to-die culture. Yet you took arrows for our young. That's different. Naomi struggled to explain. That's just what you do. When a kid's in danger, you move. It's instinct. Exactly. Thelvas's eyes gleamed. Warrior instinct. Protective instinct. Same concept. Completely different concept, Bernard interrupted before Naomi could continue the argument. Commander, perhaps we could schedule this discussion for— We wish to observe the martyr's training regimen, Thelvas announced. Naomi blinked. My what? Your combat conditioning. How you maintain readiness despite injury. I don't have combat conditioning, I have physical therapy. We will observe this physical therapy. It's stretches and exercises. It's boring. We will observe. 20 minutes later, Naomi was in the station gym, doing the shoulder mobility exercises her physical therapist had prescribed, while a dozen Kre'vashi warriors watched with rapt attention. Arm circles, she said flatly. This is arm circles. She trains through the pain, one warrior whispered. I'm trying not to lose range of motion. She demonstrated the next exercise. Gentle rotations, working the healing tissue, gritting her teeth through the discomfort because the alternative was permanent stiffness. The warriors were taking notes. Advanced conditioning, another murmured. Pushing past injury to maintain battle readiness. It's physical therapy. Thelvas stepped forward. How long do you maintain this training? 20 minutes. Twice a day. Twice daily combat drills while wounded. Thelvas sounded awed. Your species' dedication is remarkable. I'm doing what the doctor ordered. Your shamans prescribe combat training? They're not shamans. They're licensed medical professionals. Rika and Shira, who'd been watching from the corner, decided this looked fun and started copying Naomi's movements. 2 cubs doing wobbly arm circles. Every Kre'vashi in the room made a sound of collective reverence. She teaches the young, Mothtar had appeared from nowhere. The martyr passes her knowledge to the next generation. They're copying me because they're kids. The ancient ways preserved through demonstration. Naomi gave up. The religious movement started on day 5. Naomi was doing routine checkups, standard medical work, boring and necessary, when a Quellan parent brought their offspring to medical. The child has been fussing, the parent explained. We heard the martyr could help. I'm not a— Naomi stopped, sighed. What are the symptoms? Crying, refusing food, general distress. Naomi examined the small Quellan, checked temperature, looked for obvious injuries, noted the slightly distended midsection. Has he been fed recently? 2 hours ago. Did he finish the meal? Yes, but— Naomi gently pressed on the offspring's stomach. The Quellan burped, loudly, then immediately calmed down. Gas, Naomi said. He had gas. Keep him upright after feeding. The parent stared at her. You touched him, and he stopped crying. I burped him. He had gas. The martyr has blessed my child. I burped him. Word spread. By day 6, there was a line outside medical. Parents from 4 different species, all bringing their fussing offspring to the martyr of small ones. Naomi checked them for fever, burped them, gave basic childcare advice that any pediatric nurse could provide. They treated her like a prophet. She knows the secret cries. I'm a nurse. This is my job. The martyr is humble. Mothtar had started holding ceremonies. Actually, ceremonies, with chanting and ritual markings and everything. Naomi had stopped attending after the first one tried to give her a ceremonial title. The Galactic Council summons arrived on day 7. Naomi sat in the council chamber, massive space, representatives from 30 species, all staring at her like she was either a threat or a miracle. Ambassador Thren, a reptilian species with way too many eyes, spoke first. We've received reports of human immortality techniques. I'm not immortal. You survived 3 fatal arrow wounds. They weren't fatal. I had medical attention. Our analysis suggests I'm a nurse from Detroit, Naomi interrupted. I've been stabbed before. This isn't special. The chamber went silent. You've survived multiple fatal wounds? Thren asked slowly. I lived in Detroit. Pay attention. Naomi was so tired of this conversation. Humans aren't immortal. We're just stubborn, and we have good medical care. That's it. But the pain tolerance is normal for humans who work in emergency medicine and deal with violence and have basic health insurance. Your species considers this normal? Unfortunately. The council members exchanged looks that Naomi couldn't interpret. She was about to explain further when the chamber doors opened. Shartok entered, still in full ceremonial armor, looking like he was about to declare war or perform a ritual or possibly both. I challenge the martyr, he announced. Naomi's head hit the table. Why? To prove her warrior status, traditional combat, non-lethal. I don't want warrior status. The Cubs have chosen you. You must be tested. In the gallery, Rika and Shira started crying. Vela was holding them, looking terrified. Naomi looked at them, at Shartok, at the council members who were watching this like it was entertainment. Fine, she said, but if I win, everyone leaves me alone. If you win, Shartok said, you become war leader of our entire species. Naomi's eye twitched. That's not leaving me alone. Those are the terms. That's the opposite of leaving me alone. Do you accept? The Cubs were still crying. Vela was pleading silently with her eyes. Naomi stood. Her shoulder ached. Her back hurt. She had 16 medical reports to file and a supply order that was 3 days overdue. I accept, she said, but I'm billing overtime for this. The arena again. Same sand, same observation tiers packed with delegates, same sense of impending humiliation. Naomi stood across from Shartok, holding blunted training weapons. Her shoulder was still healing. Her back ached. She was 5'6" of spite facing 8 feet of apex predator warrior. In the gallery, Rika and Shira watched with huge, worried eyes. This is a terrible idea, Naomi said. It is tradition, Shartok replied. He moved. Naomi lasted approximately 30 seconds before getting disarmed. The training staff went flying. She hit the sand hard. Yield? Shartok asked. Naomi stood up. No. He came at her again. She tried to block, failed, went down again. Yield? She stood. No. Again, and again. Each time she got up slower. Each time it hurt more. Why do you continue? Shartok finally stopped, weapon lowered. You cannot win. Naomi spat blood onto the sand, looked up at the gallery, at 2 small faces pressed against the barrier. Because they're watching, she said. Shartok followed her gaze. They need to see that getting hurt doesn't mean you're done. Naomi straightened despite the pain. That losing doesn't mean you're weak, that protecting what matters is worth the pain. She picked up her weapon, raised it. So no, I'm not yielding. Shartok stared at her. At this human who couldn't win, knew she couldn't win, and refused to stop anyway. He lowered his weapon completely. You have already won, he said quietly. The arena went silent. We measure strength by endurance, Shartok continued, raising his voice. By the ability to continue when continuation seems impossible. You have demonstrated true warrior spirit, not through invincibility, through resilience. He knelt. I yield to you, war leader. Every Kre'vashi in the arena knelt. Oh no, Naomi said. No, no, no. 6 months later, Naomi was running a medical training seminar when the alarm went off. That's the 3rd time this week, she said without looking up from her bandaging demonstration. Rika and Shira, now adolescent-sized, perked up from where they'd been napping. The door burst open. A Flanari diplomat, all flailing limbs and panic. The counselor's offspring, they've wandered into the reactor maintenance level. Naomi was already moving. How many? 3. Ages? Juvenile. Equivalent of 8 years? So old enough to know better. Naomi grabbed her medical kit. Rika, Shira, with me, Bernard. From the medical bay. I'm preparing beds. They found the Flanari juveniles hanging from a maintenance scaffold. One had gotten its limb stuck in a coolant pipe. Another was crying. "Nobody panic," Naomi called up. "We're coming to get you." She climbed, talked the stuck juvenile through extraction, calm voice, clear instructions. Got all three down safely, checked them for injuries. Nothing worse than bruises. The diplomat was staring at her with that look. "You saved my children." "I got them off a scaffold. Different thing." "You risked radiation exposure." "It was minimal. They're fine. That's what matters." Naomi handed the juveniles to their parent. Maybe have a conversation about restricted areas. Later, in her quarters, Naomi collapsed onto her bed. The cubs poked their heads through the connecting door. "Can we sleep here tonight?" Shira asked. "You have your own room." "It's lonely." Naomi sighed. "Fine, but no hogging the blankets." They curled up on either side of her, now large enough that she was basically trapped. Her communication terminal blinked. New message from the Galactic Council. New species delegation arriving next week. More cubs. More chaos. More situations she didn't sign up for. She thought about refusing. Thought about the look on those Flanari juveniles' faces when she'd gotten them to safety. "This is fine," she told the ceiling. Shira snored. Rika kicked her in his sleep. Her shoulder still ached sometimes. The scars had faded to silver lines. She'd gone from emergency room shifts to accidentally reforming an interstellar warrior culture. Bernard sent a message. "Heard about next week. Should I order extra supplies?" Naomi. "The usual, and stronger painkillers." Bernard. "For them or for you?" Naomi. "Yes." Tomorrow there'd be meetings, ceremonies, probably another crisis involving lost offspring. The cubs would help and make everything worse. Someone would call her a martyr, and she'd resist throwing something. But tonight, she was just a nurse from Detroit who'd taken a few arrows and somehow ended up here. "I went to nursing school," she whispered to the darkness. "I have a degree in emergency medicine. There is literally nothing in my training about becoming a galactic childcare specialist." Rika's purring rumbled through the bed. "This is fine. Everything is fine. I'm sure there's a manual for this somewhere." There wasn't. There never would be. But she'd figure it out anyway. Because apparently that's what humans did. They showed up. They didn't quit. They protected the ones who needed it. And sometimes that was enough to change the galaxy. Even if it meant never getting a moment's peace again. Naomi smiled despite herself and closed her eyes. Tomorrow's crisis could wait. She took every arrow to shield the alpha cubs, and the predator warriors lowered their bows in silence.